Hello geographers, welcome to a series of lessons which have been recorded for you to help you complete your exam. These lessons run alongside a series of workbooklets, and these will help you prepare for the questions that we might get. Some of the notes have been completed for you and diagrams included to help with your exam preparation. Where you're expected to make notes or complete a task, the area will be boxed off, and this will help you to know where you need to write. The headings in the booklets match the PowerPoint, so it's easy for you to know which pages match up, but I'll do my best to tell you what pages we're using anyway. The BBC Bite Size website is really useful. Remember, we're studying OCRB and also the CGP OCR revision guide. I should state that I don't own the rights to any of the images or any of the diagrams I've used in these presentations or in your workbooklet. I've used QR codes throughout the presentations, which will take you to videos on YouTube. I've also tried to include the links as well. In this lesson, we are going to continue to look at how the UK's population is changing. During this lesson, we're going to look at something called population pyramids, and we're going to look at how the UK is placed on something called the demographic transition model. Page 5 of your workbook, please. The title of today is UK Population Structure. We will be investigating how the UK population has changed over time using population pyramids. We are doing this to help us understand the effect population change has upon the UK, and we're going to complete a population pyramid task and locate the UK in the demographic transition model. On page 5, you'll see that there is a QR code at the top. You can scan the QR code and it will take you to YouTube. The video it'll take you to is Population Pyramids, Powerful Predictors of the Future. So if you can't access the QR code for whatever reason, if you can't scan it into your phone, for example, then if you type in Population Pyramid, Powerful Predictors of the Future, it's by Kim Preshoff, you should be able to find the video really easily on YouTube. If not, just find any video about population pyramids and what they show. For this part of the workbook, you don't need to make any notes. I just want you to understand what a population pyramid is. On page 5, we have a population pyramid for the UK. Population pyramids are created using population data from the British Census. This is a survey carried out every 10 years. The last census took place in March 2021, which means that the data is going to be released very soon. And population pyramids show how the UK population is going to change over time. So if we look at the population pyramid on the right hand side, we can see we've got females on the right, we've got males on the left. The bottom we've got population in millions, and then going up the middle, as usual, we've got age. You'll see that the black line is 2001 and the bars represent 2011. So what we can see is how the population has changed between these dates. You're going to use the population pyramid to answer a series of questions. These questions are on the left hand side of the slide. You're going to pause the presentation for a few minutes whilst you complete notes on this slide, and you're going to complete the notes in your workbook. If you need more space, then just write on a piece of paper and you can just slot it in. So you should have written your own notes to go with the population pyramid based on the previous slide. Just going to show you some examples of what you could have written. So the population pyramid shows the proportion of males and females within a country at different age ranges. Some of the benefits of using a population pyramid are that it helps to predict changes in the population and helps governments to plan for the future. Population pyramids can be used to predict the proportion of elderly people, which will help the government to predict the amount of people who might need like hospital spaces, care home spaces, that kind of thing. It helps to show the number of young people who will be economically active in the future, so that gives the government information on how taxes will be collected. It also gives information about the number of dependents under the age of 16, and that would give the government information about how many school places would be needed. Some of the drawbacks, it doesn't take into account migration, it doesn't show regional variations, but they are very useful in helping the government to predict what kind of services and infrastructure and things like that might be required in the future. Turn to page 6 of your booklets, please, and answer the following questions using the population pyramid. 3 things the population pyramid tells me is that the birth rate remained low, female life expectancy has increased, and there is an increasing ageing population. For question 1, I'd like to summarise some reasons for those 3. So, for example, explain why the birth rate might be low in the UK. Explain why female life expectancy might have increased. Explain why there might be an increase in an ageing population. Number 2, is the life expectancy likely to increase in the future? Try and give some reasons. Number 3, why might there be a shortage of labour in the UK in 2021? Pause the presentation for a few minutes and answer those questions to the best of your ability. Okay, everyone, I'm going to feed back now, so just add in anything that you might have missed. The population pyramid showed me that the birth rate remained low. This might be because couples are choosing to have smaller families. Cost of living is increasing, and therefore the cost of raising a larger family is also increasing. Women choosing to focus on their careers and choosing to have children later in life would also be a reason. Female life expectancy has increased. This might be because of improved healthcare for women, changing lifestyles, e.g. more women joining gyms due to increased disposable income. The graph also shows that there is an increase in the number of elderly people. This may be because of improved healthcare for the elderly, improved social benefits, e.g. NHS services, improved diets and lifestyles. Number 2, is the life expectancy likely to increase in the near future, and why? On one hand, life expectancy is likely to increase as healthcare continues to improve and becomes more available. Better education about healthy lifestyles will also increase people's life expectancies. On the other hand, lifestyle diseases such as some cancers might increase. This would also increase the mortality rate. Why might there be a shortage of labour in the UK in 2021? Low birth rates in 2001 has an impact on the available working population 20 years later. Migration to the UK might solve this and help to reduce the skills gap. Pause the presentation for a few minutes whilst you make any notes that you need to. On page 7 of our booklet is a summary of the 2011 census. Remember, as I said earlier in the presentation, the next set of results is probably due to be released late 2023 using 2021 data. But at the moment it hasn't been released to the public. So in 2011, the data showed that the UK population is increasing. Showed that 2011, the number of men was roughly 31 million compared to 32.2 million women. The data showed that the UK's population is ageing. In 2001, census data showed that there were 9.4 million people over the age of 65. And in 2011, this had increased to 10.4 million. This is approximately 16% of the UK's population. The 2011 census data showed that 87% of UK's residents describe themselves as belonging to a white ethnic group. The data showed that there is an increase in migration. In 2001, 4.6 million people had been born abroad and are now residents of the UK, and in 2011 this had increased to 7.5 million. In 2001, the largest source of immigration was from the Republic of Ireland. In 2011 this had changed. The largest source of immigration was from India, followed by Poland and Pakistan. Polish immigrants saw the biggest rise from 58,000 to 579,000. The 2011 census showed that marriage is on the decline. The data showed that UK residents aged 16 and over who were married in 2001 was 51%, and in 2011 this had decreased to 47%. The data showed that the average number of rooms per household is just over 5. This data is really important to the government because it shows how our population is changing, and it helps the government to put in services such as increasing school places, or increasing the number of hospital beds, or increasing the number of care homes, things like that. Pause the presentation for a minute and just have a little look at the information yourself and make sure you understand what it all shows. On page 8 of your booklet is a graph. This graph is called the demographic transition model. It shows changes in population structure over time, and it's basically a line graph. Underneath the demographic transition model graph, we have got some population pyramids that match the 4 main stages of the model. What we can see using the graph is that in stage 1 it says high stationary. I can see that there is a high death rate and a high birth rate. I can see that the total population is low. If I look at the population pyramid at the bottom, I can see the population pyramid has a really wide base. What that means is that this part of the model, stage 1, would refer to countries which would be not even classed as LIDCs. So currently no countries are in stage 1. It would really refer to like tribes and very isolated groups of people. Stage 2 shows how countries have progressed to being an LIDC, a low income developing country. It shows that the birth rate is still really high. It shows that the death rate is decreasing. It shows that the total population is increasing. Birth rate would be high in an LIDC for many reasons. One reason would be that the majority of people work in agriculture and therefore rely on having large families to work on the farms. In a lot of LIDCs, there is a limited access to contraception. There is also limited access to education about contraception. So in LIDCs, people often choose to have large families. Because there's often a high infant mortality rate in LIDCs, that might mean that people choose to have large families in case some of the younger children also die. We can see in stage 3 of the demographic transition model, we can see that the birth rate is starting to decline. So countries in stage 3 would be your EDC countries, your emerging developing countries. So improvements in healthcare would decrease the death rate. Improvements in access to contraception and changing lifestyles would decrease the birth rate. For example, people moving away from primary industries such as farming and working in secondary industries such as factories. This would encourage families to have a lower amount of children because less people are required to work on the farm. Greater access to education also improves people's understanding of contraception. And so in stage 3, people are starting to make different lifestyle choices about the size of their families. We can see that in stage 3, the population pyramid has changed shape. So it's no longer looking like a pyramid. It shows that there is still a relatively wide base. However, the part of the pyramid age 65 and over has increased to more of a semicircle shape, and that is because of improvements in healthcare, improvements in diets, and a higher life expectancy. In stage 4 of the demographic transition model, this is where we are talking about countries progressing to become ACs. So we can see in stage 4 there is a low death rate. We can see that the birth rate has also declined, and we can see this on the population pyramid at the bottom. We can see that the age group 15 and below is now getting narrower, and we can see that the life expectancy of age 65s and over is quite high. Countries in stage 4 would be your AC countries, your advanced countries. People in these countries often choose to have smaller families. People in AC countries are often working in the tertiary sector, so doing things such as like the services such as like office work, things like that. Some countries though are in stage 5. So stage 5 has a declining population. There's not that many ACs that are in stage 5. It's mostly countries such as Japan. A declining population would be caused when the birth rate is falling below the death rate. It means that people are choosing to have mostly 1 child or 0 children, and that would decrease the birth rate. Again, lifestyle choices are one factor. In some ACs, the cost of living is incredibly high, and therefore families just can't afford to have many children. Pause the presentation for a few minutes whilst you digest that information. It is important that you understand that stage 4 and 5 of the demographic transition model are AC countries. Stage 3 are the EDC, the emerging developing countries, and stage 2 are the LIDC countries. And it's very rare for a country to be in stage 1, and that's mostly just isolated groups of people, such as Amazonian tribes. So on the previous slide, I explained the demographic transition model. This video does the same. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you to a YouTube clip, Stages of the Demographic Transition Model. If you can't scan the QR code or you can't use the link, then just type in Stages of the Demographic Transition Model onto YouTube and it'll take you to the video. I'm going to finish off this lesson by completing an exam question. Explain why the UK is in stage 4 of the demographic transition model. In your answer, you need to refer to the population pyramid. It's worth about 4 marks a question like this. So to help you out, I've given you the demographic transition model. I've also given you a summary of what stage 4 means. So birth and death rates are both low. Infant mortality is low. AC countries are stage 4, meaning it's an advanced society with widespread contraception, female empowerment and a long life expectancy. Pause the presentation for a few minutes whilst you complete your answer. Okay, let's feed back. So your answer should look something like this. The UK is in stage 4 of the demographic transition model because the death rate is low. This is because the UK has excellent and free healthcare and access to nutritious diets, which means the UK has a high life expectancy, as shown in the population pyramid, with a high number of people over 65. The UK also has low birth rates. This is because the UK has widespread contraception, meaning families can choose when/if to have children. Increased female empowerment over the last century has meant families are choosing education and a career over having a larger family. Pause the presentation for a few minutes and check that you have all of the information that I've included in this answer. Well done everyone for completing this lesson about how the UK's population is changing. Today's lesson has provided you with an overview of population trends in the UK since 2001, using population pyramid and migration statistics to determine the UK's position on the demographic transition model.